Earlier, I spoke with CBS News Justice reporter Paula Reid about what investigators know so far.
Right now, we're told there is no larger national security threat tied to this attack, and at this point, they don't see any links between this shooter and any foreign terrorist organizations, despite the fact that ISIS has tried to take credit for the attack. Now, one of the most significant developments in the investigation so far is the fact that investigators have been able to execute search warrants, both at the suspect's home and in his hotel room. That's significant because at first they were having to take their time before they could execute those warrants. There were concerns about safety for the investigators, any potential booby traps like what we saw in San Bernardino, because sometimes we see with these attacks, these attackers plan sort of a second phase or a second act at their home and can booby trap their home, their car, and in this case, a hotel room. But investigators were able to get into the house. They say they weren't really able to find anything that really speaks to motive, but they have taken some objects out of that home that they will continue to examine. They also got into the hotel room where, as they have said, they found that the shooter had at least 10 rifles. They're also taking some evidence that they will continue to examine from the hotel room. But still, Stephanie, at this point, no clear answer on what motivated this attack.
Tell me where it is going from here, and clearly a lot of challenges because this suspect did not have a criminal record. He really wasn't on the books.
That's right. And from here, as the investigators have said, they have taken some objects both from his hotel room and from his home that they will continue to examine for evidence, anything that might possibly give them clues to the motive for this attack, and of course, whether or not he worked with anyone else, if there's anyone who helped him plan. Because clearly, law enforcement officials say it is clear that this is an attack that would require a lot of planning. You had to be very methodical to sort of carry out this kind of attack. So at this point, investigators, they're going to look at what they've taken from the hotel room and the home and also try to talk to any of his associates. Now, his girlfriend, a woman who's being described as a romantic associate, she was found overseas, but at this point she is not giving investigators any information.
Okay, the undersheriff in Las Vegas earlier described this as being investigated as domestic terrorism. There is debate over that term. Why or why not use that term, and what does it really mean?
So there is a huge debate about that term. Anytime you have a mass casualty incident like this, a lot of people would like it labeled as domestic terrorism. Now, as a lawyer, as a justice reporter, I sort of look at the law, and that gives us a lot of guidance about why there's so much controversy here. Because under the law, we don't actually have a domestic terrorism law that you can use to charge people. The federal code provides a definition of it, but you can't actually charge people. So I'm going to give you an example. For example, in Charlottesville, that car attack that is being investigated as domestic terrorism because they believe that the man who drove that car, that he may have been politically motivated to kill people. But even if it turns out that that was what happened, that he was politically motivated to murder someone, he can't be charged with domestic terrorism. There is no law with penalties that prosecutors can file a charge. So it's really up to Congress if they want to pass a law where people can be charged with domestic terrorism. But Stephanie, that's part of the confusion, is that there's a definition in the federal code that says any politically motivated act of violence can be considered domestic terrorism, but you can't actually charge anyone with it.